Hi, everybody. My name is Anthony Wall. Welcome. I work with the American Council on Exercise, and I'm also an ACE certified personal trainer. Really excited to be hosting this session today in observation of Black History Month and also American Heart Month, or Heart Month, I should say. And we have some amazing guests here, and we're going to be covering some really interesting topics. But first, from our guests, I'd like a little bit of an introduction, just a little bit about who they are. So I'm going to introduce Kinetra Joseph. Nice to meet you, Kinetra. I know you are with the CDC and working with the Live to the Beat campaign. You're the director for that campaign. Tell us a little bit about you, the campaign, and what's going on your side of the country today.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Nice to meet you, to engage with you virtually. I'm so pleased to be on this forum today. As mentioned, CDC Foundation's Live to the Beat campaign. It's actually a national cardiovascular disease prevention campaign created to empower more individuals to lower their risk for heart disease and stroke by taking small steps, including, very importantly, that important step of moving more. I have been director of this campaign since its inception. We started planning in 2020 during the pandemic, but I've been working in integrated marketing, communications, and behavior change marketing, including with an emphasis on public health for more than 20 years. I am probably really enjoying the work that I'm doing right now on this particular campaign. It's a passion of mine. Where I am in this part of the world, Atlanta, Georgia, where it's actually, the weather is looking pretty nice right now, I must say, but in Atlanta, that can change on any given day. So if you ask me again tomorrow, my answer might be different tomorrow.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being here. And we're going to come back and talk about that campaign here shortly. Tasha Edwards, nice to have you here. I know things are a little bit different where you are at the moment, so I'd like to just tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, and how do things look where you are today?
Okay. And I just want to say hi, Anthony. Hi, Kinetra. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. I am gazing over my shoulder because we are under tornado watch here in Huntsville, Alabama. Not unusual, but we still don't like it. Mm-hmm. So that's what's happening here. I am a board certified health and wellness coach, personal trainer, group fitness instructor of lots of things. And I just consider myself a wellness advocate, a wellness cheerleader, a wellness enthusiast. I have a nonprofit called See Her Healthy that is, our motto is her wellness changes the world. And so to be able to offer access to women on different levels, physical, emotional, do a lot of mental health things, regardless of their ability to pay for it or afford it. So really working on the access piece of this health and wellness journey for all.
Thank you. And I think if we were to look at the CDC's Live to the Beat campaign and what you do, there is an intersection. In fact, that the campaign is going to talk about is designed to provide resources for people like yourselves in these different communities, underserved communities, and many different communities. Kinetra, tell us a little bit about that, the campaign, maybe some of the resources that are available. And then Tasha, I want to come back and ask you a question on something that you brought up a second ago.
Yeah. I'm happy to do that. I'll start with a little bit of what most of us know, right, on this call. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in the United States. Cardiovascular disease is also the #1 contributor to all racial disparities in life expectancy. And so when CDC asked us to work with them on cardiovascular disease prevention campaigns, we realized it was also a very critical lever for advancing health equity more broadly, and particularly communities that need it. It's not a surprise that the pandemic took things from bad to worse. And CDC recently released data that showed the pandemic set us back 5 years in progress in preventing heart disease deaths across all races and ethnicities. And that number is double for Black adults in the US, who lost 10 years worth of progress during the pandemic. And part of that was also an increase in sedentary leisure behaviors. Those increased during the pandemic. Physical activity declined during the pandemic. And so a large part of what the work of the Live to the Beat is, it's relevant more broadly, but probably more important now than ever. Mm-hmm. We conducted focus groups with 160 Black men and women across the nation. We went in saying, okay, we need to do a cardiovascular disease prevention campaign. We know what we need to say. We know what the people need to know, right? And when we did those focus groups, we started with listening, and it really changed our thoughts on the best approach and the best strategy. A few things we heard. One, please don't give us more statistics. We already know about heart disease and stroke, and in the Black community in particular, but we're overwhelmed and we're tired of the data about mortality, or anything else that's about trauma in and for the Black community. We're tired of the negative statistics, and we know what the steps are. That's not the issue in particular there. The other, don't pretend this is easy, right? A lot of those prevention steps are very important, but can be easier said than done, particularly if you're living in places where there isn't easy access to safe places to get physical activity, or easy access to a gym membership, or even a place where you can get healthy foods. And so let's not pretend that this is easier, super easy. And then another thing was, don't ask us to change everything immediately, right? And so you'll see a large part of the focus of the campaign is, one, empathy. All of the messages lead with acknowledging the barriers that we can all have. For some, like myself, as a working mom and wife, it's time. Right? Even if I have access, time, is a limited, resource for me as it is for many. So let's just acknowledge what those barriers may be for many people to practicing heart healthy habits. Representation is critically important. So you'll see in the campaign very diverse representation that reflects the diversity within the Black community, different body types and sizes, skin tones, hairstyles, et cetera, so that folks can kind of see themselves in it. Small step solution. So to that point about not talking about the destination, we're serving up resources, making connections to organizations like Tasha's and others, who are resources that are available to help you think about how you can implement some steps that are sustainable in your situation for how you can put these in action and living. It's called Live to the Beat for a reason. We are about leaning into Black joy, Black culture, and living and celebrating life, and how these steps can improve your quality of life, not just reduce your risk of dying.
Great. We're going to dig into that in a little bit. And Tasha said I'd come back and ask you a question. You mentioned, when you're talking about your environment and your circumstance, I get the feeling that the community that you live in is a community where many people are struggling with making these lifestyle changes, or perhaps understanding what to do. And something I was thinking about earlier on when we were talking about or discussing the media and the media's, availability of advertising and marketing. I know, Kinetra, that's a little bit of an adjustment for your campaign. It used to be, you just need to go out there and do it, or why aren't you doing more? And you mentioned that, Kinetra, a little bit about being a working mom and having to deal with time as a resource, but that's not working for our communities. Tasha, what's changed and what's the approach we should be taking?
Well, I think it's about sharing with people what they can do, as opposed to putting fear in them about what they can't do. It's a loss. It feels like a loss for someone to tell you, you can no longer do this thing that your great-great-grandmother has done. Like, I would not go to my family and say, you have to stop using Crisco to fry your fish, right? And so it is about learning to add habits or adding things as opposed to taking away. It is also about being with people as opposed to talking and directing people. And so you have to gain people's trust. My life is different than the one I grew up in the hood in Chicago, and so one of the things that I know, that if I were to go into a neighborhood, I want to relate to them the way that I would relate to my own family. I know the struggles. I've been in the struggles. And it is about helping them already identify what they're doing well. Everyone wants to be affirmed. What are you doing well? If you put on that 30 minutes of Al Green while you're cleaning up the kitchen and you're dancing, hey, you're moving, and the more that we affirm people, people are more likely to change. The guilt and the shame just, you build resistance. People are resistant to that. You can't tell me what to do. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard Black people don't do that. This is not that's not us. That's not how I roll, And so I feel like I'm in a very unique position to have seen one lifestyle and now live in another, to know that I can take what I have now and go to my people in a way that it's not threatening. It is like, oh, okay, even if they start to think about it, just like Kinetra said, we're talking about small steps. If you're drinking a 6-pack of Pepsi every day, try 5. And people say, that's it. It's just like a toddler. You don't say, now get up off of that table and start walking when they're 4 months.
Takes a while.
It takes a while. It's consistency. And I just think there's a building of safety that we have to do, because we're aware of when people show up and they haven't been there. We're very aware of that. And so it's just like Kinetra said, we're talking about culture. And I just want to bring the culture of what we already know to get us going in a better direction.
When we were going through the height of the pandemic in the US and coming out of it, as things were starting to turn around, and we have to remember that today people are still being affected by the COVID virus and all of the circumstances of that. But we're getting to a point where people are starting to look a little bit outward and thinking that there's going to be some differences that perhaps they can make. I felt like you were talking a little bit about the messaging might have been a bit of a scare tactic. People are feeling guilty in the seat, or being made to feel guilty perhaps because they're not doing something. With the Live to Beat campaign, that's different. It's more forward facing. Kinetra, tell us a little bit about the objective there, and was that intentional to kind of move away from scare and you've been bad and you're doing the wrong things, to how you can make small steps moving forwards?
It was intentional. It was, we challenged ourselves a lot and continue to do so, to think about what are the ways in which people are receiving all kinds of messages, right? On social media, through traditional media or advertising, in the community, places where they live, work, play, and pray. And how can we be a part of that way in which they're responding well? And it's a campaign cannot do it as well for everyone, as Tasha mentioned with her one-to-one, et cetera, which is why it's so important. And it's a large tenet of this campaign. And we think we've done a really good job of providing a good wide range of content and resources and messages that are uniquely designed to be most powerful when leveraged by individuals and organizations who are able to provide that more focused touch. So we work to do that, to try and find a way, though, that it would feel like, not like it's a public health message trying to wag your face. That's the thing, is it's like we challenge ourselves to maybe not feel too public health, not feel too. And so we're really proud about some of that. Would you be okay, Anthony, if I just shared a couple of snippets of kind of what we have and what we have, so I can, I will just give a couple of examples of what I'm talking about in this particular, with just a few slides. So one, if you go to livetothebeat.org, what you'll see is an emphasis on small steps. They're organized into 8 categories, move more being a very important one. And as I mentioned, you'll see a diverse range of individuals, all different, large diversity, engaged in activities, and certainly engaged in enjoying life. We have a pulse check digital health resource, which is a tool that you can access on the website or on your mobile phone, where you can get your data in small steps. If you don't want to interact with the whole web page, you can select your step, move more. eating healthier, controlling my blood pressure, and you're going to get your content served up in quizzes and infographics and short videos. You'll earn points along the way to earn badges, and we're going to roll this out so you'll earn rewards just for consuming information and learning about small steps and begin to think about what that plan might look like for you. And then
Wow,
lastly,
really interesting.
sorry, were you going to say something?
I was going to say that's really interesting, that they can be incentivized just for interacting, which is something quite unique.
Yeah. We're excited about what will come there. And lastly, I'll close by sharing a couple of short videos to reinforce what I mentioned about finding a way that works for you. That's what I heard from Tasha is, so what we try to reinforce is, while there are all different types of ways to move more, eat healthier, our biggest message is there's no one right way, right? Like how do we model different people finding a way that works for them?
I don't like spinach.
Working out, it's hard when your schedule's as busy as mine.
Cooking is not my thing, it's boring. Nope.
Disgusting.
I knew I needed to make a change.
I knew we needed to make a change.
I knew I needed to make a change.
You know how I got healthier? Not cooking.
I switched up my order and I walked to and from the restaurant.
In the morning, I get my work done. At night, I put my work in.
We still don't like eating vegetables. But it turns out we kind of like drinking them.
Improve your heart health to your own beat. LiveToTheBeat.org.
And that's one of the general messages is do it to your own beat. You can live to the beat of your own heart, and you can incorporate small steps at the beat that works for you as well. And then the last asset that I'll show is one that was specifically designed. We did hear from our audience that when you didn't just tell us what I should be doing, but you explain, why does it work? So if I'm telling you sodium is bad for you, but I can explain how it actually does influence your blood pressure, that a light bulb goes off. And so we created this video to just explain a little bit the relationship between moving more and your heart health.
You know, being active is good for your heart in the long run. And let's face it, sometimes the long run can feel a little too far off. But did you know that getting active right now can improve your health right away? It's true. When you move your body and get your heart pumping, it can help control your blood sugar and blood pressure for hours afterwards. And keeping those numbers in a healthy range is key to protecting your heart. You can choose activities you enjoy, and just 10 minutes can make a difference. So remember, the payoff isn't so far off in the future. You're already boosting your heart health one step and one beat at a time. Learn more ways to live to your beat at livetothebeat.org.
Thanks for indulging and sharing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And we got some good insight. And I think you mentioned that a little bit about these are designed for people in a Black community, underserved communities who want resources, provided an environment that makes more sense to them. Tasha, when you were talking about, you said the example where some people are saying, not in our community, that's not how it's done. I found it interesting in those videos. It looks like they've tried to really put it in a language and in a style and a feel that's like, it doesn't have to be traditional. I wonder when you're working with clients, what are they saying about how they feel they should be active and exercising versus the connection with what you're saying that here are strategies for them to use, because it feels like there's a disconnect. They're being told all of this over here, and then they come to you and it's maybe it's even a little bit more like, oh, I didn't realize I could do it in 10-minute breaks as an example. Can you tell us a little bit about how that expectation gap is met?
Yeah, way too many times I get people who come feeling defeated because of what a doctor said to them. In my own journey, because of what a family member said to me about my body, and it's like we're starting out the journey feeling less than, defeated. This is too hard. This is going to take too long. I might as well give up. And part of it is, again, when I mentioned about affirming people, but listening to what they have to say. And you can learn so much by keeping your mouth closed, because people will tell you what they like and what they don't like and why they don't like it. And so with my one-on-one clients, I often ask, what is it that you love the most? When you were a kid, what is it that you enjoy the most? And I will tell you, sometimes you can get someone engaged in something and they don't even realize they're doing it, because you're just talking, like we were at the coffee shop having a conversation and they're like, oh my God. I'm like, I know, you just totally did that. And so it's building confidence that you can do it and that it's accessible.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're almost like a voyeuristic society where we see pictures of we want Janet Jackson's body, but even Janet Jackson doesn't have her 20-year-old body anymore, or we see the newest diet pill, or we see the newest shake. And what's happening is that there's a desperation. Like, I don't blame anybody for anything, because I have been there. I needed to do something and I didn't know what to do, nor was there anyone that would walk me through the process where it didn't cost me my car note to talk to them, And so part of group fitness is being able to connect with so many people on so many different levels. Just like the guy who said he doesn't like spinning, it was part of my thing was to become certified and teach so many different things,
Mm-hmm.
so that I could reach people where they were. Everybody doesn't like Pilates, they just don't. But they'll come to my Zumba class, with Prince blaring from the speakers, and it's whatever it takes, And I think the idea of community, seeing people who look like you, who have bodies like you, came from where you came, understand your language, your vernacular. It is a sense of, I'm not in this by myself. When we've kind of felt that, when you're in a survival mode, and none of us are the same since COVID. We can talk about how many, people got COVID, but we're talking about how many people had anxiety and depression and had to care for aging parents and had to help kids on Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
lost their jobs. And so I think it is to open the space where people feel safe being themselves, knowing we're not going to ask them to do anything other than what they do, because you don't have to spend. You don't have to spend. So I love that.
That was a really good example, because you could stereotype and say, well, you're not going to see a black guy in a swimming pool, right? I mean, you could make that stereotype. Now, maybe in an environment where they don't have a pool, that's not possible. The message is you don't have to do the traditional things. And for me, that's a little bit of understanding the difference between being physically active, which could be doing something in the house, and it could be housework, or it could be yard work, or it could be walking, versus fitness, which people often think I have to go to a specific place to do fitness. Mm-hmm. This messaging in the campaign, and sounds like, Tasha, what you spend a lot of time doing, is showing people how they can have these movement opportunities, as opposed to having to have a commitment to doing something at 6 o'clock for an hour. How does that conversation work on the ground with people you're talking to?
It feels like too heavy of a commitment. You're asking me to be at the same place at the same time when there are too many variables happening in my world. When I can't make that time, now I feel defeated. Mm-hmm. I'm lazy. And so all of these like titles and labels that we're putting on ourselves only put us farther beneath, what we're actually trying to accomplish. And so it is showing people things, like I said before, that they're already doing. Mm-hmm. If you have the laundry room is downstairs and your room is upstairs, and yesterday you were way too tired to go down the stairs, maybe you went up them twice. It is to celebrate every step along the way, that even if you take one step more than you took the day before, mm-hmm. then it's forward motion. And I think people feel relieved almost when I say, depending on if you mop like my mama, you're burning more calories than you would doing a class. And they're like, oh yeah, I put my music on and I do this and I dance while I cook. Yay, that's awesome. What do
You
you like
move
to
it.
listen
Yeah.
to? Yeah. And it's like, well, what do you like to listen to? And the more people get engaged, they want to return to it. It
Mhm.
becomes that habit that they thought they could only set if they got up and went to the gym at 6 a.m.
Right.
No, the habit is on Saturday mornings, I put my Pine Sol in a bucket. You know, I put Motown on Pandora and I clean,
Mhm.
you know, and it's a feel good. We want people to feel good so that they go back to it, not feel bad, so that they repel it almost, because it's like saying, I'm never going to be able to do that.
Mhm.
I'm never going to
Mhm.
be able to do that. And now people are like, I've been doing it. And that's when you can get people engaged in going forward, as opposed to just tearing themselves apart because they honestly didn't have the time or the energy or the resources. That is still a real thing.
Talking of resources, in the CDC Live to the Beat campaign, a lot of good stuff in there. I know we've got the ambassador program. People listening, watching, how can they get involved? You know, what are some of the things they can bring into their communities to expose their community to these great resources? How can they get involved?
So, I like to talk in slides, Anthony. Can I share a couple slides?
Yes, and we're getting close to the end. So
Okay, I'll wrap it up
in
in these slides just to close it out by answering your question. No videos this time, but at a high level, what is available in the campaign is 3 categories. We have short content like those video PSAs, radio ads, a whole suite of social media graphics and copy, plug and play. Social media is still a good lever for engaging your audience or your community in the conversation, then redirecting them to the resources that you may have or the solutions. So great social media content there. We do have some resources that are more educational, like that animated video, the pulse check resource we talked about. Kev on Stage is a prominent influencer, comedian, and radio host in the community. He recorded a 7-episode web series with us. So each of these episodes talks about a particular topic. He exposed his own journey, went to the doctor, takes you into that. So those are about 5 to 8-minute episodes each. And we do have a limited quantity of gifts, like tangible promotional gifts. Some of these materials are available to be shipped for free, like postcards, et cetera. And then some of these, gifts, if you have events, are available to be shipped as well. So all of this is free and is currently available on our toolkit. You don't have to do anything, like it's a public service. But if you want to coordinate and work with us more directly, we do have a community ambassador network. The link here, we'll provide all these links to you as well. If you raise your hand and say, yes, give me messages, give me resources, I want to engage in this conversation, I'd be happy to use what you have. We're also able to consult with you and maybe even support you in targeted activations. For certain ambassadors, we might be able to support like an event in your community. And we're going to all ambassadors will be recognized on our website, and we'll get recognition posts on our social media channels as well. So the campaign website is liveToTheBeat.org. This toolkit, you can go to millionhearts.hhs.gov/live to the beat now to get access to all those downloadable resources. And you can go to bit.ly/community ambassadors network to learn more about joining that network.
Thank you for sharing all of that. And we're going to have that information made available. What's exciting about this is if I'm watching now, I'm a health and fitness professional wondering, how can I get more engaged in my community? These are all tools that I could put on my website. I can use within those conversations with clients, Tasha, that we're talking to on a regular basis to say, here's some information that you may wish to consider that just helps you understand a concept maybe we're talking about a little differently. And it seems like there's going to be more stuff coming as the program gets built out that will really help us give back to our community in small bite-sized pieces. That's really exciting.
It is. And Kinetra, I actually signed up for the ambassador program, like when I talked to you last week. So I look forward to doing more work with you all. I think as far as fitness professionals, we have got to get outside of the gyms and the studios. You know, we have got to go places where the people are. And, you know, we're spoiled in a sense if you make your money because you show up to a place and the people are already there. You know, it takes a little bit more work to pack your bag and say, tell me where you're going to be. And I'm coming there. And I think that's the change that we need to make. And I think it starts with us going into our own communities. One of the other things that I suggested, even my daughter goes to Alabama A&M, I suggested to her, why don't you become a group fitness instructor? To get peer, she said no, because I've been doing this her entire life.
She said, not yet, you know, not yet.
Yeah. So it is activating those people who have the energy and the stamina and they don't know what to do, making sure we have resources that if they can't pay for a certification, we can pay for a certification. You know, that's also doing work that maybe you're not the person on the ground level, but if you have the resources to activate someone else, then that's also helpful. To get to our schools and our churches and our fraternities and sororities, wherever there's an open door, we as health and wellness professionals should be willing to walk in. We should be the first people in line. And I think that's going to be the shift, is to go to the people.
Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, we're having this conversation, this dialogue, you know, in observation of Black History Month and Heart Month. And it doesn't stop next month. You know, there are people next month who are going to have the same struggles that the people are having this month and last month. There are people next month and in 3 months who may be worse off. I would encourage all of you, as you're listening and getting excited, go to the website, reach out to us, ask us for questions. Every little bit of information we have could be that bit of information that's the tipping point for somebody in our community to go, thank you, I feel like I can come with you on this journey. And rather than being pushed, it's walking alongside people. So thank you very much, Kinetra, to you for your time today. Tasha, thank you very much for everything you shared and your journey, and really excited to have you both on. We're going to have some more resources that we're going to put out on our blog later. And thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.